Hey, it's Pat Flynn here, and I want to ask you a question. I want you to tell me, do you have proof? Do you have proof? Proof is one of the most powerful things that we can include online when it comes to our messaging, our marketing, and just trying to convince people that what we're saying is actually true. And today we're going to explore this idea and this principle, the principles around proof, so that when we write our emails, when we create our content, people are actually believing what we're saying. You know, it's interesting because if you don't know somebody yet and you come across them online, typically you default to doubt. Your security system is on, and it takes some time for a person to earn the right to kind of become a part of your world and insert themselves into your environment. I think trust is sort of directly proportional to how much proof is needed. The more trust that you have with somebody, the less proof that's needed. Right? Like, let's think about it. Think of any very strong relationship that you might have. A person who you've already built trust with is not going to need that much convincing. You still might need to convince them, but it's not going to take as much time as if you just had met a stranger for the first time. But of course, different people have different levels of trust and levels of security when it comes to opening up and believing certain things that people say. But today we're going to unpack specific strategies that we can include in our marketing messages, in our podcasts, in our videos, so that people will be more likely to believe us. But not because we're being fake. That's the most important thing in the first principle here that I wanted to get in before we even hit the intro music. You have to be authentic. You cannot fake things. But with what is true, we can frame it in a way that people can enjoy, that people can come into us with, and that they can then work with us for. So welcome in. Thanks so much today. Chat, if you're here live, say hello to your friends. If you're here watching the replay, hashtag team replay. Man, I started the stream and I forgot to mark that it was to this particular page. And I had started a totally brand new stream and a few people were there. Hopefully you made your way here. Thank you. Let's start the show.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Cool. Welcome in Razvan, Ryan, Bill, Travis, Afsal. Hello, Manos, Baba in the house. We got our amazing moderators in the house as well. Stephanie, we got Kathy. I think I saw just Samson here. And then, of course, we have people like Karma Cashflow and Peasant Uprising who are in the house as well, who might be in the background or coming in later. But really, really excited. And thank you for helping me. I did just wake up, by the way, Miss Boyce. Stayed up late last night working on some podcasting stuff that I'm really excited about. So I didn't get as much sleep as I wanted to. So the bags under the eyes and the large pot of coffee here is helping me, but all good. Really happy to be here. And you guys wake me up. In fact, you guys are like my pot of coffee. Hot, steamy, and very helpful for my day. So I appreciate you for that. Mike says, social proof for the win. Sandeep, hey, Pat, great to see you. Cool. So like I said, the amount of proof that you need to offer somebody is directly proportional to the amount of trust that you already have them. And online, people basically default to doubt, right? We have the security system. We need proof in order to break through that security system. But I don't want it to feel like we're manipulating somebody. I don't want it to feel like that we have to be aggressive in order to break into that person's security system. What the code is for inserting yourself into another person's environment is often proof. Yo, Inspirational by Marie, thank you so much for becoming a member. I appreciate you. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that we can do, and there's a lot of things that we can say. I think there's some other principles that are required before even proof even makes sense to use, because we have to first have people understand that we are talking about the right things, and that is proof. That is proof number one. And this is very simple. The more you know about who it is that you're talking about or who you're speaking to, the more likely proof is going to come in the form of, wow, you understand what I'm talking about. If you have the best content in the world, but you cannot connect on the level of understanding and empathy, then it's not going to matter at all, right? And we see this all the time. This is a principle that I talk about all the time, even in my book, Superfans, this idea of understanding the lyrics that your target audience would respond to. And I'll tell you the story about my wife, April, and I tell this story in my book, Superfans, but you might have heard this before, but I'll tell it again. There's a lot of new people here. If you're here new, or if you found me within the last week, I'd love to know in the chat and say hello to you really quick. But my wife, April, she's a huge fan of the Backstreet Boys. And I tell this whole story about the Backstreet Boys and how much of a fan she is and just how ridiculous it is. But I can't hate on her because I'm a ridiculous fan of things like Back to the Future, right? So we each and all of us have things that we're massive fans of. But she told me the story about how she first got engaged with this band. Not engaged like, will you marry me? But like absolutely active as a listener. I was about to say subscriber, but this was back at the time when not even MP3 players were around. It was the radio, right? And on the radio, you can't really control when certain songs are played. And then there was MTV, and you couldn't control what was on TRL, Total Recall Live, right? And thank you for all the new people that are here. And yeah, I should have the Storytime music on. Let me put the Storytime music on for that. And so one day, when April was 15 years old, sitting in bed crying. Why? Because her and her boyfriend had just broken up with each other, unfortunately. Well, fortunate for me because later, yeah, anyway. Typical teenage girl going through the ups and downs of love and romance. They broke up and they were together for a couple years and she was feeling down. And she was in her bed, she turned on the radio and she heard a song that she had heard many times before, right? It wasn't the first time she heard the song, but she'd heard it many times before, which makes this even more powerful. The song was Quit Playing Games With My Heart by the Backstreet Boys. Quit playing games with my heart. That song, right? But this time it hit different, right? You know that expression, oh, this hit different, right? And it hit different because every single word in this song was basically describing everything that she was going through, right? If you actually look up the lyrics to the song, every single phrase, every single word, every single letter meant so much more to her in this moment because she was living exactly what they were talking about. Somebody who was playing games with her heart, right? Why didn't you tell me from the start? All that kind of stuff. And as a result of that, she was triggered. She had a moment of activation. This was proof that this band was something worth listening to because they were speaking the lyrics that she was experiencing. And then, of course, that then led to getting the album. I think it was, what is it, the Black and White album or the Millennium album? I can't remember. And then she got tickets to her concert. And then all of a sudden it led up to a point where I found out, which I didn't know, she had this box in her closet full of bobbleheads and magazine clippings and framed pictures of Nick Carter and all this stuff, right? That started it, the lyrics, right? So at the start, we need to be very clear with what is it that our audience is interested in? What is it that they might respond to? How do we know that? Well, number one, you can get involved in communities. I've been doing this recently. And again, I walk the walk and I show you how this works. The way I've been able to grow my brand new Pokemon channel recently is by being involved in a lot of other Pokemon channels and noticing what people are loving, what people are not loving, and inserting my own style into that. And one thing that I've learned that a lot of people who are into Pokemon cards is that they love the art. And I found a hole in this space. I found that there were people who were creating a lot of content who didn't have a lot of great looking videos. So that's something I'm leaning into. And that already is being responded to. Just that alone. And that didn't take very long to understand. It just took some time to get involved in the communities, right? And there's many, many more examples of things like this. But the other great way to understand this is to have conversations with people who are in your target audience, right? You might even have a conversation with your younger self who was once in your target audience, right? That's very, very common. I was an example of that back in 2008 when I got laid off, wanted to pass this test, or before getting laid off, I was struggling with passing a test. I passed it. Then after I got laid off, had this idea to build a business helping people pass an architectural exam. I was basically talking to myself from a year ago when I was studying for this exam, and that was really helpful. So again, the more you can understand who it is you're serving, the more likely it is that just through the words that you're using, you can show proof. It was Jay Abraham who said this: if you can define the problem better than your target customer, they will automatically assume you have the solution, right? They will automatically assume you have the solution. So use that to your advantage. If you're not doing that, that's 50% of the battle, right? That's 50% of the battle. Cool. What's your favorite song, by the way? April's Quit Playing Games with My Heart. Backstreet Boys. There you go. Bill says, how did you propose? So you bought a big boombox and sang it to her. That would be weird. Having a boombox and then singing it. What would be the boombox for? Unless I had a microphone connected to it and then sang. Maybe. Plus, we're Filipino, so karaoke would be the way to a person's heart in that space. So you got to know who your audience is, right? Actually, this is going to sound really weird. I've never told this story before, actually. But speaking of knowing who your audience is, April's parents, really traditional Filipino family. And I remember one summer during the time when April and I were dating, my dad and I went fishing. And I had caught I think it was a 30 or 35 pound albacore, giant tuna. It wasn't the largest fish I've ever caught, but it was close. And I told my dad, hey, we have some extra fish. Could I give some to April's family? And he was like, yeah, sure. Like, I'll cut some up and give. And I was like, no, I want the whole fish. I really like this girl. And I brought the whole fish, had it gutted, and just gave it to them. And I was like, may I have your daughter's hand? I didn't ask at that time with a fish in my hand, but it was like, I gave it to them. They really loved it. They had tuna for weeks, boiled the head to make soup, like all this stuff. And yeah, that was pretty cool. It worked. I asked for her hand in marriage. Her dad was like, sure. And then he was like, do you have any more fish? And I was like, yes, I do. Again, know your audience, right? And understand the things that they would respond to. Exactly what we're talking about. Proof that I knew that they would love me would be through fish. Okay. Wow, that's funny. I haven't told that story in a while. My romance stories are so funny. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but okay. Thank you. Good times. All right, and Manos, I know you love the stories about April. Don't mess with April, by the way. Okay, so how else might we show proof to convince somebody who just finds us that, okay, this person is worth listening to? We talked about understanding the lyrics, right? Let's talk about your credentials. This isn't always going to be possible, especially if you're just starting out and you don't have any credentials. You might have some expertise in a space, but you might not have a mention here or a mention there. And that's essentially number 2 here. But there's many more ways, so just stick with me. But one quick, easy way to psychologically show proof is to have a connection to things that people are already trusted with or connected to, right? So we talked about this yesterday. Getting spoken about by somebody else who somebody's already earned trust with, right? So that's something that's really key. But what do people put on their website sometimes? Right under the banner, right under their face, right under the tagline, they have a little thread that shows Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes, New York Times, whatever, right? What about on books that were written by people who had written best-selling books? What do they put in their new books? Number 1, New York Times best-selling author, Ramit Sethi, Tim Ferriss, right? What did I put on my second print run of Will It Fly? This is a Wall Street Journal best-selling book, which is true. And then on Superfans, I think I put somewhere author of Wall Street Journal bestseller, Will It Fly? So what I'm talking about is proof in the sense of having connections to things that people have already earned trust with that show that you have some sort of expertise. Sean Stevenson's website, we talked about him earlier. I saw some people talking about him in the chat, thanking me for bringing him on the show last week with his book, Eat Smarter, which I highly recommend. Number 1 release on Amazon last week, which was pretty amazing, of all books, which is pretty incredible. I don't know where he's going to land on any lists, if any, but I would imagine he would be somewhere. But to do that with a diet-related book, amazing. And it's not even a diet book. It's more of a informational book about how bodies work so you can figure out your own diet. Anyway, big shout out to Sean, #not sponsored. I just love him so much. Well, on his website, he talks about health and fitness, and right underneath, featured on Dr. Oz, featured on Entrepreneur, featured on this website, featured on that website, right? This is a quick and easy way to have people understand that, okay, this person is worth listening to. Because a question that people have when they come across you is, why should I listen to this guy? Or why should I listen to this girl, right? You nail the language. That's the most important thing. We talked about that up front. But then it's like, okay, but why you? Like, why from you? How have you earned anything yet? And again, if you don't have that, that's okay, because a lot of the things that we're about to talk about will unlock that for them. It'll still get you through that security gate that a person has up while they're searching for a person or information or a place to trust online, right? Isaac Storm 33, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. What book was that he mentioned? It's called Eat Smarter. I was going to say Sleep Smarter, but that was his first book. Eat Smarter, Sean Stevenson. Cool. Okay, here's in my absolute favorite way. It doesn't show instant proof like an image of Forbes magazine or an image of something like that, or even the lyrics like we talked about. But as soon as a person reads through this or sees that this happens, this is more powerful than the other two. So what I'm talking about here are case studies. Specifically, if possible, case studies that you have been a part of, whether it's your own sort of transformation or somebody else's transformation. And speaking of fitness and weight loss and such, let's sort of stay in that realm, because this is the clearest, I think, for all of us to understand as an example. If you are a blogger talking about fitness, what might be, chat, the best way to show people that you have helped others? To literally talk about your clients or yourself and show people your day 0 picture and your day 90 picture and how much thinner you are. You were here and now you're here. Wow, look at that difference. Transformation. That's the most powerful form. That example of how you've helped either yourself and or have helped others. The cool thing about doing it with yourself is like, oh, I can trust this person because this person went through it with me, right? You don't even have to have a full transformation yet in order to show help, and to show that you can help people. Case in point, Adam Baker, the author of Man vs. Debt. Man vs. Debt, back in the 2010s, was a very popular blog in the personal finance space. This person was teaching people how to sell their goods at home to make more money to pay off debt, because this person, Adam Baker, he himself was at one point 6 figures in debt. And I don't remember how he got into 6 figures in debt, whether it was poor money management or a school or a combination thereof or what have you. I don't know. But he was still in debt, yet he had hundreds of thousands of people following his journey. Why? That's almost like asking, well, hey, why are you learning fitness and weight loss from somebody who's 400 pounds? Well, it's because that person used to be 600 pounds. Or in Adam's case, it was because he had once been 6 figures in debt and is now only $20,000 in debt. And he's teaching and sharing and showing the entire process along the way through his own examples, sharing how much money he was making from his latest junk eBay sale or whatever. I don't think he was selling junk, but you know what I mean. Extra stuff around the house, what he was doing to make a side income to help pay off some of that debt. Very inspiring, because you were like, wow, you were once here and now you're here, right? Oh, I think the fish is romantic, but that's just me. Thank you, Joy. I love it. You guys are the only ones to ever hear that story. I need to use that more. That's actually a really good, funny story that I might use on stage about knowing who your audience is, right? That's a good hook too. How I earned my wife's hand in marriage with a fish. Or how something smelly... Never mind. Okay. Putting my my thinking cap on sometimes in the morning doesn't lend itself to good copywriting. But anyway, Dustin, testimonies, the story behind the journey. Thank you. They are relatable, right? They are relatable. Now, a very powerful story beyond the one that you have is one that you've been the guide to help somebody else. And this is where Donald Miller and his book Story Brand comes into play. We've talked about him several times here on the show. I'd love to bring him on one day. That would be really cool. He was on the audio podcast, if you want to check that out. Brilliant episode. And his thesis is essentially that if you want to grow and scale as a marketer and as a business, You have to realize that you're not the hero of the story. Even if you're a personal brand, you are not the hero of the story. You are the guide. You need to create heroes. And the more that you can showcase the hero stories that are in your audience, the more other people who are just like them, just a few steps behind, are going to come to you for help, potentially pay you money to get that help, or at least share you, and all the great things that happen once you earn that trust and you show this proof, right? So that's absolutely important. And case in point, in episode 275 of the Smart Passive Income podcast, again, my audio show, I had featured 3 of my students from my podcasting course. And each of those 3 students were handpicked specifically because they had different objections, they had different backgrounds, they had different purposes for starting their show. It started with Dr. B, who was over 60. Her objection, main one, deathly afraid of technology, right? She had the time, but with deathly afraid of technology, we talked about her transformation. I didn't have her come on the show, and I didn't ask her questions like, hey, so Dr. B, like, tell me how awesome my course is. Never asked her to tell me anything about my course. And naturally, it showed up in the best way possible. Oh, Pat, oh my gosh, I was so afraid of the technology. You know, I'm over 60 years old. I don't even know like how to click a mouse sometimes, it feels like. And then I got your course and all of a sudden I was doing it and I saw that I had my show up on Apple. And then now I have like 33 different countries and my podcast is all around the world now helping people with ADHD. I had people email me after that episode went out and say, hey, you need to give commission or thank at least Dr. B because she's the one that sold your show for you or sold your course for you, not you. I was showcasing the hero story. With Dr. Shannon Irvin in the middle, she had an offline practice that she was really busy with and wanted to go online and want to use a podcast to do that, but she didn't have a lot of time. Yet she was still able to fit it in and do it. She was very busy, a neuropsychologist, and boom, now that's her main thing. And now she's gone completely online and is now building, doing these charities to help kids with AIDS in Africa as a result of all this stuff that she's been doing. Super cool. And then Rob and Carrie, very business-centric, boom, their business increased by 262% as a result of starting. How could you not get then interested in starting a podcast when you hear these stories about where they were to where they are now? Here was the answer, Pat Flynn's course, right? And again, I didn't position myself as, hey, tell me why my course is awesome, but I did purposefully handpick these people to showcase my stuff through their transformation, right? Through their transformation. Alvin talking, and at the fish story, I'll be caught up soon. Cool. Oh, are you like 2Xing it, Dawn? Probably. Although I'm talking to the past. Traded a fish for a wife. There you go, Network Chuck. I like that. You can't use that story. It's fishy, says Bill. Bill, I love you even more now because of that. Okay, so case studies. If you have yet to create a case study of your own, make one happen. Whether it's thinking about your own transformation in the story that you've had. You've gone through many cycles of the hero story in many different ways. Perhaps you just haven't sat down to think about it. And you're likely in whatever position you're in online right now, in the middle of, or at least, at the start of creating success stories for others. But when we can pull these transformations out and tell these stories, and these aren't testimonials. I don't want you to think of these as testimonials because they're different. This is a case study. A testimonial is, oh yeah, it was really great to work with Bill. He's a fantastic person, really funny, and he made learning about all these things much better. Thank you, Bill. There's no transformation there. That's just Bill's cool. Uncle Bill's awesome. Versus the idea of, okay, before I found Uncle Bill, I was bored and I was searching online and I was wasting my time. But as soon as I found his content, I really started to have higher spirits. And I now look forward to every single time Bill publishes a new video because I know that whatever it is, I'm going to have a good time and be entertained. Thank you, Bill. That's a form of a case study, right? Because you're showing the before and the after. Really, really important. Appreciate that. Cool. Bill says, you are such a great coach. I cannot send enough people your way. Kathy, thank you for policing. Appreciate you. Cool. So let's keep talking. Well, actually, one more thing about this hero story. I would highly recommend you watch a short 5-6 minute video. We may have even watched it here once before, or it may have been during another presentation. Anyway, there was this TEDx or TED educational video, one of those short ones, not a TEDx talk of somebody on stage, but more of an infographic type of situation. and this person is telling the structure of a hero story in regards to a lot of movies and television shows and books that we watch, right? The idea that you start in this ordinary world and then you're challenged, and there's sort of an upper half where things are in the regular world, and then you're kind of going around this circle, and you are challenged, you're struggling, you find a guide along the way, you come here back to the bottom, you're in your deepest, darkest hour, you come back through it, learning something new, and you defeat the dragon, then you come back over and you're back to where you started, but a completely changed and different person now. And when you can highlight that hero story of your own, and you can also highlight the hero story, actually it's this way, right? Clockwise. It's weird because for me it's counterclockwise, but for you it is clockwise. If it's the third time out for that person, let's kick them. Let's just like get out of here. This is our house. Yo, thank you so much, Sasky. If you all could do me a quick favor while we're in the middle of this, hit that thumbs up button. Let's see if we can get to 100 today, just like we did yesterday. Cool. So let's talk about other things that we can offer, especially for those of you who are just starting out, who you might not have a lot of things to prove with, right? And if you don't have a lot of proof to offer, proof being very important to help people learn how to trust you quicker, because like I said, the amount of proof needed is directly proportional to the amount of trust a person has with you. And if a person's just finding you for the first time, there is zero trust. So you're gonna need a lot more proof, right? One of my favorite ways to offer proof if you have literally nothing is to at least dig into the niche that you're in and pull out some really interesting numbers, right? Studies, numbers, like real facts and things about the space that people can't disprove, right? So let's say, for example, I was helping you with your podcast and you just found me for the first time. I know all of you have found me already, and you know that I teach podcasting and talk about it quite a bit, but let's say you didn't know that about me at all. If I were to come to you and tell you the first things before I talk about who I am, before I talk about proof of how I helped others, this is what I want to start with. So let's imagine, right? You're finding me for the first time. I'm going to be talking about podcasting. I might say something like, hey, did you know that podcasting is the most powerful platform when it comes to creating content? And here's why. And I want you to think about this. When you're watching a video, how long are you watching a video for? Not a live stream, but like a regular video, maybe 5-10 minutes. If you're reading a blog, maybe it's also 5 to 10 minutes study show. But on a podcast, and this is verified, here's proof from my show, here's proof from some of my students' shows. People are listening to podcast episodes for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. Maybe you might listen to shows like Joe Rogan or Hardcore History that go into the hours, and you're listening. Why? Because it's where you're listening. And this is the unique thing about podcasting. It's the only time you can really get in front of a person when they're on a drive, when they're at the gym pumping iron, when they're on a plane and they don't have internet access. You can get several minutes, if not hours, with your audience that you can't get anywhere else. You need to start a podcast. So what did I do there? I didn't share about my own experience starting a podcast. Although maybe I did a little bit in terms of how long people are listening for, but I shared a very clear statistic about something that makes podcasting so interesting for somebody who's like essentially you want to get to the point where a person who they might not even know who you are and they go, oh, wait, are you serious about that? They lean in and they go, whoa. Like, can you give me more about that? Right? So that's really key. Do we all get that? Let me know if you understand that, because that's really important. And then I have a surprise for you if I hear that you're on track right now. The more you like, numbers are good. People can understand numbers. If I say a lot of people will listen to your podcast for a long time, I'm essentially saying the same thing. A lot longer than YouTube. Okay. C. I grade that as C. But when you say, yo, people are going to listen to your podcast for 400% more hours. They're going to listen to your podcast for at least 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. And then if you have images, if you have like visual proof to go along with that, you've killed it, right? You've killed it. Elton, that one was for you. I know you like that that highlight there, or the sound effect. Is there Ryan here? Ryan says, I'm a Filipino. Sweet. Pinoy pride. And I'm 19 years old. And because of you, I've started my podcast. Thank you for your inspiring words. You're welcome. That's so cool. Don's catching up. So funny. Cool. Martin apparently tagged a DeLorean, which is cool. I'm going to check that out for sure. Expertly crafted video title for clicks, considering this day in politics. Well played. Well played. I don't even remember the title of this video. Oh. Anyway. Getting clicks is important. I do want to talk about this a little bit. I mean, this is a great thing. So who said that? Was it Joe? Joe Mack. Joe Mack. I love the two short names. It's like Pat Flynn, Joe Mack. What's up, my man?
Bruh.
Thank you. Clickbait, there's a huge debate with it, right? Because on one hand, we don't want to fake people out. The more exaggerated, the more hyperbole something is, the more chances are that you might have a person click and then go, oh, that's not what I wanted. That's actually what clickbait is. Using exaggerated titles or phrases in a way that get people to click. And it's bait when, especially in the negative form, when you don't sort of match the expectation. When you have something that it wasn't what the title or thumbnail was about. But we're talking about business here, and I haven't lied to you, but I may have used something that was maybe over exaggerated, so I can get you to come here and then I can help you, right? I have to do that on YouTube. If I just go a topic to help you with business, it's like, okay, that's not going to intrigue a person enough to want to come here and then get this information that could be potentially life-changing, right? So you kind of have to balance that, right? Because I think some people hear that and they go, ooh, okay, and now I'm going to use, get rich quick scheming type of titles with pictures of Lamborghinis and a mansion that I just photoshopped in, but really was careful with the lighting in the background to make it seem like I was actually there, right? We don't want to do that. Clickbait, click fish. A lot of fish stuff today. Cool. Seth says, hi, Pat. I recently learned that on Spotify, you can create an audio ad to be played on other podcasts. Yeah, this is their monetization sort of strategy, right? It's sort of baked into what Anchor is, and Spotify bought Anchor, and with Spotify, you can do this too. I think it's really smart, and it's worth experimenting. I don't think it's been around enough to know whether or not it works, but a new ad platform is always good, so long as the ad platform doesn't completely demolish the experience that people were once used to having, right? And we've seen this on Instagram. We've seen this on Facebook. I think that oftentimes platforms can make a mistake and go too hard with it and then have to sort of pull back a little bit, which a lot of these platforms that I've mentioned have done. But as long as they at least are always seeking a great experience for their users, that's what it's about. But obviously, when we start to see ads put into play, I'm imagining Spotify is going to get to the point, much like how YouTube is and also Facebook, where they're going to get very targeted. They're going to perhaps be able to dig into the kind of music that you listen to, make certain sort of assumptions about you, and then play certain ads related to what they assume about you. And then we start to talk about privacy and tracking and cookies and all this other stuff. I'm wondering if Spotify is tracking, much like Facebook, where in the world you are visiting online or what products you're looking for on Amazon. And then imagine listening to a podcast. Hey, I saw that you were somebody who visited my webpage the other day. I want to talk to you really quick. Could be cool. Could be not so cool, right? If you've watched, not The Social Network, but the other one, Social Dilemma, then you'll know what we're talking about. Yeah, Spotify bought Anchor for $250 million. GTO says, we're talking about you, YouTube. Yes, we are. So cool. So let's talk about more proof, right? Here's another form of proof that can encapsulate all these things. The idea of understanding exactly where your audience is. We talked initially about understanding the right lyrics to provide, right? Just like a song hits you hard, it's because of the words that they're saying. How might the words on your podcast, in your emails, on your YouTube videos, on your blog hit different? It's because you know exactly what they're going through. And that's an initial trigger that people can go, okay, you've proved to me that you know where I'm at. And that's a huge start. That, like I said, is 50% of the battle. There's proof in the sense of showing transformation, whether it's your own transformation, how you once were this and now you're that, and a person being able to relate to that, or, and better yet, showcasing case studies of how you've helped others. Because when you showcase those stories of how you helped and transform others, people are going to want to go to the guide who helped create that hero's journey. And that's you, right? You are the Yoda, and we all want to learn from you and learn how to use the Force. You don't want to use Force when it comes to marketing, but you want to use the Force when it comes to just kind of understanding exactly what a person's going through. And then people whose businesses aren't sort of in your realm, these are the droids you're not looking. These are not the droids you're looking for, right? Move along, move along, move along. You know, but it's hard because I think sometimes when we are seeking to find the right words to say, it can almost feel like you're just chasing a wabbit, right? You silly wabbit, and you're chasing it, you're trying to get it, and it's always feeling like out of grasp. But the way that you know if something is actually working is you talk to your audience and you check out to see how they're responding. And I think a lot of us hide behind our keyboard or our video screens or our cameras, and then we kind of just like have a one-way conversation. There's no way you can know if this is hitting unless you're having a two-way conversation. So how might you, within a community, within a chat area, within a comment section, have a two-way street that you can then begin to understand from their point of view, things that will help you sort of align to where you should be, right? Inspirational by Marie says, Pat, I'm starting my podcast because I saw you on the tech show recently. Then I came looking for you. Hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Marie. Appreciate you. And I hope that your channel is going well. I know we reviewed it on Saturday, and hopefully that the hoping that the changes are going to be fruitful for you. I'm really excited to see how we go. Cool. We talked about the power of numbers, showcasing not just like proof in oh yeah, a podcast can be really helpful for you. Okay. But proof in, hey, Sophie Walker, who was one of my students, she started her podcast literally from scratch, no business, no contacts, nothing. And now she's got 4 million downloads. Her podcast is actually required listening for some organizations in Australia because her podcast is called Australian Birth Stories, where she interviews moms about their pregnancies or what life is like after pregnancy to help other moms feel more connected, safer, more confident in the path that they're going down. Anyway, using specific numbers and showing a story, right? And now somebody who's starting from scratch who goes, oh, I don't know if I can start a podcast. I don't have any followers or subscribers. I don't have any contacts. I'm so behind. No. What am I doing? I'm showing you the objection. I'm rebuttaling it. I'm refuting it. Rebuttal. I'm showing a rebuttal. I am then sharing an example and then an outcome that came as a result of that. Oreo, objection, rebuttal, example, outcome. That's the Pat Flynn patented Oreo tactic when it comes to the best way to show how your program, your thing works. 1 second. That's what I did before I gave the fish. Just kidding. This is called Entertainer's Secret. $9 on Amazon. Dry throat and hoarse voice relief. Thank you to Nicole Walters, who introduced this to me. One of the best purchases I've ever made as somebody who podcasts, who live streams, and is very much in that world. Cool. So we got about 15 minutes left. Thank you all for being here. The final thing that I want to talk about when it comes to proof that encapsulates everything that we had just mentioned, and any one of those things would be cromulent, totally acceptable. But this one really puts it all together, and that is the idea of stories, telling a story. When I told you the fish story earlier, y'all responded to that. There was a beginning, there was a middle, maybe a little bit of drama and suspense, a fish, and then an ending. And when people know that they're listening to a story, all other objections, all other, well, should I be listening to this, or what's going on here? They start to walk away from those thoughts and start walking into the story. And when you can help people walk into the story, and if the story does include numbers, if the story does include transformation, if the story does include the same feelings, objections, lyrics, and words and empathy, then it'll be a home run. This is the case that encapsulates the whole thing in that story. And so if you have a podcast, or if you have a video channel, or if you have a blog, or even an email list, you should be telling more stories. Last year was a goal for me to tell more stories. And, not thankfully, but, I'm grateful that despite everything that happened, the income stream started, and it gave me a platform to continually, daily improve storytelling. And it's become such a powerful strategy that has helped me connect with more of you. It's helped me connect with more students of mine. It's helped me be able to help more people. And of course, your earnings are a byproduct of how well you serve your audience, right? So I'd love to, before we get to day 365, have a really deep dive on storytelling, and have like a storytelling workshop, and really go through examples of how we can take something that happened and then turn it into a story, right? So this fish thing, great. I'm going to unpack that. That's going to go in my Evernote folder as an example of knowing your audience, because that's something I talk about a lot. This is a story that helps you understand how important it is to know your audience, and it's funny, and it relates to my personal life, and that's always a great thing. This Evernote thing is what I call my story bank, if you will. But let me tell you another story. And I'm trying to remember the story that I was going to say, but then the fish story kind of grabbed me. And I guess I can just continue to talk about, the day. That any little event that happens can be turned into a lesson in a story, right? It's just how you tell it. And there was a moment when my son had wanted to come with me to go grab lunch. We had ordered out. This was back before the pandemic, and I wanted to bring him in the car with me to help and just be with me. And then he goes, "Hey, Daddy, can I bring the iPad into the car?" And I go, typically I say no to that, because I don't want him to just like escape when we're in a position in the car to just like have a conversation. I always love the car time, and that's what I miss. We haven't been on road trips or anything lately. We don't have the kids play with their devices in the car. We have them tell stories and talk about things that they're interested in. And I love that time. But I wanted to test him, and I wanted to see what would happen. So I asked my son, well, why should I say yes to having you play with the iPad in the car? And I think he saw an open door, right? Because I think he knew that I was going to normally say no, but then this was not a no. This was just like, okay, well, you need to tell me why. And he's like, oh, well, I want to play Minecraft. And I said, okay, well, how does that help me? I need to know why I should say yes, not what you want to do on it, but why I should say yes. And he goes, well, I want to get better at Minecraft. And I think that, it would be cool if I had some extra time, and I'm in the middle of building my house in the game anyway, and I could finish it and be ahead on that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what's good for you, but I need to know why I need to say yes to that. How does that affect me? And, I got down to his level, and I was like, you need to sell me the iPad. And then he was confused. He's like, you want me to sell your own iPad back to you? And I was like, no. And I was like kind of getting frustrated, but I was kind of having some fun with it too, just having a laugh. And I said, no, you need to tell me why saying yes to you would help me. This is how we do. Like, if I see a moment like this, I'm going to go full ham with turning this into a lesson in one way, shape, or form. I want to see his gears going. I want him to struggle a little bit, because that's how you get better, right? And so finally, I think he's getting it. And he's like, okay, well, if I'm playing iPad in the car, I won't be a distraction. And when I'm not a distraction, you can concentrate on driving. And I said, okay, cool. That's kind of cool, but you have one more try. I just wanted to see, that was an okay situation, but then I didn't want to say yes to that, because then that would be the excuse every single time, right? And we could drive, every single drive we had beforehand kind of disproved that theory. Finally, he said, well, you were an architect, right, Dad? And now he's engaging with me. And I go, I don't know where he's going. And he goes, you were an architect, right, Dad? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, if you give me some time to play Minecraft, which teaches me how to build things, I can teach you how to build things better, and you can become a better architect. And I was like, okay. You know about me. You talked about me. You're helping me. Cool. Okay. He had earned it. So we got to play that day. Next day, hey, can I play with the iPad in the car? Nope. But you're an architect, right? Nope. You've already used that one. So that was just a special moment. But that little moment of asking to play the iPad in the car became this story that I told at the closing keynote at the Upreneur conference in London 2 or 3 years ago. And it was awesome. I got a standing ovation. So any little thing that happens during the day can happen. The fact that this morning that I started a stream without one little, on the eCam, I set the wait room early so that people can come in and chat amongst each other. And what happens is I have to click a button on eCam to stream to that page. If I just go live, it creates an entirely new page. And I forgot to click the button to stream into this page. And I had started the stream, and some of you were actually there, right? And that could be a lesson. It's a lesson that you need to have perhaps a checklist in place, because the day you wake up a little bit late and you didn't get a lot of sleep the night before is the day that you might just forget that one little thing that throws everything off. And so if you have a checklist that you just kind of read right beforehand, even if you think you're going to be sort of naturally doing that every time, it's still smart to have it in front of you, because there could be that one time that you might mess up, and who knows, that might have been the difference between somebody following you or somebody having a bad impression about what you do up front, right? So that can happen too. Keone did good. Bill said, and then Pat, relieved, put on his favorite station, and they both went in peace to Vegas. Yes. And then I put our entire life savings on black. We got it. We came back, and all along the way in the car, we were just dancing in dollar bills the whole time through. No. What? What are you talking about, Bill? Justin says, hey, Pat, you inspired me to finally start pursuing my YouTube channel. I released my first video 2 days ago. All the influence from your audience, and you have truly helped out. Nice, Justin. Congrats. The start of a YouTube channel is always a fun, exciting moment, and it's always a tough thing, too, because it's very easy to compare yourself to others. But remember, MKBHD, who we all might know, the #1 tech reviewer on YouTube, his first 100 videos were for his first 100 subscribers. So, Justin, let's get cranking on the content. Don't overextend or burn yourself out, but let's get regular on the content without worrying too much about if it's perfect or if it's the right way. Like, let's just get it out there. Have the message be the thing that comes across. You can always update and add more to the audio and the video later. And every time you do this, you're going to get better. And let's get to those 100 videos as soon as you can. You don't have to come out daily, by the way, but the more you do, the better you get. And congrats and good luck to you, Justin. Justin M. Storm, everybody, if you want to check them out. Have you used OBS? Says Jared. I've used OBS. It's kind of more Windowsy, if you will. It works. I know a lot of people who use it and love it. I've used also Streamlabs, which is very similar, and it works extremely well. I know a lot of people who use it for their full-time business, right? But I like Ecamm because it's very Mac-like in terms of how intuitive, how easy it is to use, the ability to just quickly do things like that, and have other things happen at the push of a button. I also use a Stream Deck XL, which is a array of buttons that I have near me here that allows me to connect certain scenes, certain overlays that I have for the stream through Ecamm with just a click of a button here, right? Happy 2021 to everybody, by the way. So yeah, Ecamm is great. I absolutely love it. It's just much more intuitive and easier to use. The cool thing about Ecamm that OBS doesn't have in particular is the ability for me to bring a guest on. So I can share a link, a special link to you to come on here and actually show up sort of on the left side, the right side, or full screen or whatever, and we can do an interview. Very similar to what one might be able to do on StreamYard, not Streamlabs. But OBS is dope, and it's free, so that's incentive. So yeah, Windowsy. Ecamm, like Clubhouse, Mac, iOS only though. Clubhouse for now is iOS. I imagine that they're going to be extending into Android very soon, but they're very smart. They're they're starting with a small window of people, and it's just growing like mad, and everybody wants in now. And so as soon as it launches on Android, once they got the bugs fixed out, you know, I'm sure it's going to explode and go big. So cool. Was that quote spoken by Wesley Snipes? Oh, okay. That wasn't me. Thanks. You're welcome, Jared. Thanks for being in here. Restream is interesting because with Ecamm, you can actually use Restream, and through Ecamm, and still have the ability to do all these things that you can with Ecamm. You can actually have it feed through Restream and then feed to all other different places, right? YouTube, Facebook, etc. But there is something I want to say about that. I actually don't recommend streaming to multiple platforms at the same time. I think it then gives you only 50% of your energy into each. And yes, it's the same stream, you're talking to the same people, but it's very difficult to feel present in one place or the other to the chat. Here on YouTube, it's like, hey, YouTube, this is the place. We're chatting with the YouTube people here. In it, I've seen it and I've experienced it before from the audience's perspective. If I'm on a stream and the person's on Twitch at the same time, there's like certain things that I feel like I can't do that other people, I feel like I'm missing out, or I feel like I'm not a part of the cool crowd sometimes, or other people are getting left out, right? Cool. I have 3 teenage girls, says Kenny, and when we drive the car, apparently I lose my radio privilege. That's crazy. Cool. So chat, we talked about proof today. Thank you so much. I do have a mastermind call coming up very, very shortly here. So before you leave, if you can hit that thumbs up button, that would be really, really fantastic. We're 2/3 of the way to 100, which was our goal. And we started out a little rough with getting on the wrong stream, and that was my fault. And we were able to tie in a lesson there with relation to that. But again, to recap what we talked about, proof is really important. The amount of proof needed is directly proportional to the amount of trust that you've already earned with a person. But oftentimes people online are finding us for the first time or don't trust us as much as they would a person in real life because it is online. So we have to do some things to make sure that proof is actually a part of the equation when we're sharing our messages, when we're posting content, when we're building relationships online. Proof comes in many different ways. Proof can come in the form of transformation, showing how you've helped others. It can come in the form of statistics and case studies and proof, transformational stories. It can come in social proof, the idea that, okay, other people are following you already, or that you've been mentioned on these other places that people have high regards to, or hold high, believe in. But more importantly, foundationally, you need to know what people are going through and what lyrics they would respond to. What words might you say that make them understand that you know where they're coming from? That's proof that you know where they're at. And that's half the battle, right? And if you can encapsulate these things within a story or within stories, then you're going to hit the nail on the head and do much better. So chat, thank you so much for coming in today. I appreciate you. If you're watching the replay, thank you. And Dawn, maybe you've caught up with me or not. Doesn't matter. Thank you for watching anyway. And let's have a great day. Keep up the good work. Thank you no matter where in the world you're from. It just means the world to me that you're spending time and choosing to take some of your day, 1/24 of your day with me. It's a lot, and it means a lot to me. I appreciate you for that, and I look forward to serving you tomorrow. So tomorrow we are starting, I believe, at 9 a.m. Pacific. Again, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Just let me verify that really quick for you. And that is Thursday the 7th at 9 a.m. So 9 a.m. Pacific is when we're going to start, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last sort of content-specific day before we get into our Friday fun day, and we have our wheel, we give away prizes and stuff like that. It'll be the first Friday of the year where we do that, so we're going to launch with a bang. And then next week, we got episode 300 on Tuesday. We have a special guest coming on, one of our very own, in fact, and we coordinated yesterday, and we're going to have this person on to give us a fun little show, and it'll be a lot of fun. So no, it's not Grandma Goody this time. She rocked our world in episode 200. This is going to be another one of our own coming in, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you again for coming in today. I appreciate you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and ding that bell notification icon too to make sure you don't miss the next time these go up. And thank you for everything. Mike, Manos, we got EJ, Shonda, Bill, Sue, Wendy, Lisa, Elton, Stephanie, Martin. Appreciate you so much. Take care. And as always, Team Flynn for the win.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream. with Pat Flynn.
Thank you again, everybody. Appreciate you. And I hope you have a great day. And yeah, not much else to say. We talked about a lot of things today. Make sure to catch the previous streams. Very, very specific things to help you in your business this week. And I'm looking forward to the next topic tomorrow. See you then. Peace out.
Bruh.